A couple seconds. We are live. Okay, hold up, chat. Alright, let's get us set up and then we'll do an introduction. We're still doing an informal kind of...
I wonder if Kaylee's gonna shout it out on the snap and watch wherever.
Alright. We can keep him here. Just gonna turn that down a little bit.
I got you.
Okay. And you're in scene, I'm in scene. Let's put Yoda here.
Grab some more
In the
courage.
background. Here we go. We got a nerd out. Make sure all the nerd section is up. And there we go. So hey guys, welcome back to episode 4 of our podcast, the Zealous podcast. And today I'm with Shithead again, also known as Logan. And today we're doing a Star Wars podcast. We're gonna nerd the fuck out. It's gonna be great times. I'm excited.
Wouldn't this technically be episode 3 because we don't talk about episode 2 that didn't happen?
Okay, that's your guys' fault, and it is going to be happening. I'm just gonna be changing the fucking title of it. We're already stress vaping. But yeah, so guys, sorry this podcast is coming to you guys late. The last 3 weeks have been kind of hell for everyone, I guess you could say. For me specifically, I had my childhood dog pass away. I put him down. On top of that, I was just finishing up work, so I was working my ass off. Because I'm finishing that, or I finally finished that, saving for tuition. On top of that, I was just enjoying some good times at the lake. And just the fact that he couldn't make it out due to his own life and just all being crazy and stuff. So I apologize for that, but we're finally here. I promise I'm committing to these podcasts. This is something I'm going to be committed to. I love these podcasts. I'm super inspired to do them. And they're good step away from studying that. Our first viewer is Trevor. He's my dad's high school friend. He was just out at the lake with us. You probably would have met him if you guys came up, but you know, it's all good.
Well, I'm
Little
sorry.
gig. Anyways, so welcome back. Today we're going to be doing the Star Wars podcast. So Logan, what are we going to be doing or talking about during our podcast here?
Well, I was thinking to probably talk about like where our interest with Star Wars came from, and from there we can start to divulge into kind of talking about what we think of the Disney sequel trilogy, the direction we want to see Star Wars go into.
So I'm just trying to get him a little more elevated so you guys can see him. Sorry to interrupt. But continue.
You saying I'm tiny?
Tiny little bitch.
Okay, but yeah, no, we're gonna talk. Probably.
Sorry, we're getting the technicalities fixed here.
That's nothing. I want to see that. Drink responsibly.
Yeah, we're having a couple drinks. Yeah, so you finish up what you're going to talk about in the Star Wars?
Yeah, so basically just where our interest from Star Wars came from, and talking about what we think of the new stuff that Disney's doing with it, where we want to see Star Wars go, and just kind of talk about like what Star Wars is to us, because right now, unfortunately, with the Disney trilogy coming out and being all finished up with, it's kind of gotten a lot of negative press and a lot of negative reception. With understandable reason, because I mean, like, Force Awakens was really good. The second one was Rian Johnson was not a good director choice.
Terrible.
There was potential, but they kind of just screwed everything up from there. And then honestly, the third one was a good end to a disappointing trilogy, is how you honestly gotta view it. But
it was the best possible ending that could have occurred or one of the better endings.
Exactly.
Despite everything. There's a lot you can still appreciate as a fan and stuff, and a lot of, if you're really going to sit there and criticize every little thing at the end of the day, and I used to be like this, I hated Episode 8. Episode 7, I was like, okay, it's a good opportunity, a good way to start this up again, to introduce the new generation to Star Wars, while also treating the older generations, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Doing the fan service kind of thing, and honestly, Episode 8 was a bit of a disappointment. I felt that way, but I still had a lot of appreciation for it as a fanboy at first, and then the more I watched it, the more I hated it.
Yeah.
And then Episode 9, it was like completely open-minded, can only get better from here. I think it's weird they're bringing back Palpatine, but okay. I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm tired of hating whatever.
Yeah.
And,
well, the big thing is what a lot of people need to understand about the sequel trilogy was it wasn't necessarily marketed toward us. Yes, they brought in some characters and some aspects of the original stuff that's going to get the long-term fans like our fathers and and uncles and all those types, and then like they brought in a little bit of like the younger stuff, so kind of like Clone Wars kind of esque mentality, which brought in kind of like the teenager to young adult range. But like what the new trilogy was really focused on was bringing in kids, and it did. There is now a bunch of girls who are going out cosplaying as Rey, which is a fantastic choice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ahsoka as well.
Yeah,
especially because
exactly.
of season 7. Let's see. So Nerd Brad, if you didn't know, was a part of Team Live. Kind of got disbanded over time. But Nerd Brad, he says Rise of the Skywalker is, what did he say?
I think I saw that he was trying to say that it wasn't canon, but unfortunately we...
Best movie hands down. Rise of the... Oh, Return of the Sith. Of course. We will talk about that later. And
you mean Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith. Sorry. Okay. Also, so before we dive into the movies real quick, actually, I want to take a quick step back because we have a lot to talk about.
Oh boy.
This might be a longer episode. We'll see. We'll see how much Kaylee wants to put up with us. Let's just say she's vibing, so we're good. So first of all, I want to give a quick quick shout out to this setup. So if you guys don't know, I'm a goody two shoes for the most part. This man is a little, like, he has good spirit, and then he's, like, this dark, evil kind of guy, right? So the way we had it set up is, it's not perfect, obviously. We tried to set me with the most blue color on, and the most red color on him, to kind of show that, that light side and dark side dynamic, that Jedi and Sith dynamic. But obviously, there's a little bit of blue on him, because he's still a good guy, and there's a little bit of red on me, because I'm not perfect. That's kind of the gist here. We also got a Star Wars, wallpaper in the background. It's not beautiful or good by any means. We have my Lego Yoda. I don't know if you guys can see, but we also have this little pop Bible of Kylo Ren, and if you tap his head, his lightsaber lights up. So that's just setting the scene for this podcast.
And before you can get into digging on me, I was supposed to bring my Stormtrooper Black Series and my Kylo Ren Black Series helmet, along with the Black Series Kylo Ren lightsaber I have.
But he didn't, and I'm pissed off.
Yeah. I forgot. I brought lawn chairs and I bought beer, so I thought that was gonna.
You know what? It's good, and honestly, you're here, and we're finally doing it, so I'm happy. But I will just point out, our thumbnail was supposed to have him wearing his fucking Kylo Ren. Like, we're going full nerd mode, right? He was supposed to have his Kylo Ren helmet. I was supposed to have the Stormtrooper helmet. He was supposed to have his fucking lightsaber and shit. But it's good, because we got the mini Kylo Ren and the Lego Yoda, which actually kind of want to display it. So you guys can kind of get a good idea of it. So,
well, there's honestly a good chance that once we get we have like an actual setup, proper lighting, and it's a much more planned thing. There's a good chance we'll probably redo the episodes, kind of like how Monster Cat does those VIP mixes of songs, where they basically just take an old song and just go back and like edit it up to make it sound pretty as hell.
Or even just follow up
exactly
episodes too, because it's always good to give reference to your roots. Also, we have Coda here, so we have Yoda and Coda. He's my little pup. He's 10 months old. He needs a love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's also our special guest. But yeah, so just quick touch up. I forgot. Thanks for bringing up the setup. So this is about as good of a setup I was wanting to get, and to be honest, I really like the setup for a podcast so far. Depending on how serious these podcasts go and how they grow in the future, or just how motivated I am, I actually might invest some more money to make it better quality, get better mics, better setups, and all that stuff. But for now, I think this is a really good kind of low-key, chill vibe. I do want to get the audio of these to Spotify at some point too. I think that would be fun. But then again, that's when it gets more serious. We're only on episode 4. But going back to the topic at hand, Star Wars. So, Logan, how were you introduced to Star Wars growing up?
Star Wars has been a part of my life since day one. My dad is a comic book artist here in Saskatoon, so I've been raised around geek everything. Comics, movies, TV shows, video games, every little thing. And Star Wars was one of the things that was one of the first things me and my dad really connected on. And I was introduced to Star Wars, I think, just a toddler when Revenge of the Sith came out, so my dad went to see it in theaters and stuff. But where I personally fell in love with Star Wars, head over heels for it, was the 2003 Clone Wars cartoon series with the animator Gennady Tartakovsky. He is the animator of Samurai Jack, another fantastic Cartoon Network show. But what it was the prequels. I fell in love with the prequels. I've always been more of a fan of the Clone Troopers, Stormtroopers, all of those guys because honestly they look way cooler to me. And yeah, I get lightsabers and the Force are dope as heck, but I mean, like, if you go back and watch the 2003 Clone Wars series, you will see why Clone Troopers easily became my favorite thing ever.
Again, we're not talking about the animated Clone Wars, which also is phenomenal. We will talk about that for probably 45 minutes. We're talking about, and I didn't really know about or watch it until this year, until around season 7 of Clone Wars came out, that I was really looked into it, and I was like, yeah, this is really fucking cool. And I love how that explains why Grievous cost a lot, because it makes him do, like, during the, I believe it's the events of Revenge of the Sith, just fucking, right?
Crunched him, yeah.
But as we see during the Clone Wars animated TV show, Grievous has always been like that. Unfortunately, the Samurai Jack editor, artist, whatever version of the Clone Wars isn't canon, even though it gives a lot of context behind Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, sorry, did I cut you off when you mean like how you were introduced to Star Wars?
Basically, it came from my dad, and from there, like, my first favorite movie was The Empire Strikes Back because of basically the Battle of Hoth. The AT-ATs versus and the ATSTs, and just seeing the bad guys absolutely come in and just crush the rebellion was it's a unique change of pace, because a lot of movies and a lot of media nowadays, it's very cookie cutter. Good guys happen, bad guy thing happens, lots more bad guys, and then the good guys turn it around last second, and it's the end of it's the state of the day. Whereas Empire Strikes Back comes in, and the good guys lost. Like the rebels straight up lost.
Yeah.
Han Solo was frozen. The rebel base on Hoth was destroyed, and for like you thought they were screwed. And it's just a really unique change of things. My dad's always been a Darth Vader fan. He thought he was the coolest, so I've always had a little bit more of like Empire/Sith liking of things. But yeah, no, that's basically where my love of Star Wars came from, and like my first favorite characters were Boba Fett, Darth Vader, and Stormtroopers.
Oh yeah, for sure. For me, again, it was my dad as well. I'm pretty sure a lot of people had their parents introduce them to Star Wars, or people our age around, I'd say around the 17 to 22 years span, I'd say, of age.
I got showed Star Wars as a kid, dude.
No, I'm saying people today who are anywhere from 17 to like 23-ish years old were probably introduced to Star Wars through their parents.
Oh, absolutely.
For me, my dad was like a casual fan. He grew up with it, whatever. For me, I looked up to my dad at everything. He thought the Toronto Maple Leafs were kind of cool because they had the Maple Leaf to represent Canada. I took that and took off and said, I am a diehard Maple Leafs fan. I'm not anymore. I could care less about NHL. But so that was just an example, right? For me, it was Star Wars. The most nostalgic and earliest memory of Star Wars is watching Revenge of the Sith in theater with my dad and watching that movie over and over and over, nonstop. And for me, my toys were Star Wars, so I grew up with Lego Star Wars. That was a little later in life. That was my favorite. I still love Lego Star Wars. I literally asked for Lego Star Wars for Christmas and got that fucking Yoda thing this past year. But before Lego Star Wars, there was this, like, it was like a Mac or 7-Eleven thing, where it's like you had this poster and every purchase you got a pin, and it was like an additional pin, and there was like 30 characters of the prequel series, including Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker, even though they're the same but separate icons, right? And we got every single one except for Jango Fett, and I always wanted Jango Fett. I still have it actually as like that collection is actually in like my keepsake. Like it's in a box that if this house were to burn down, it would still be safe because that's just such a precious thing to me. Same with they used to have these stands, because this is when the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith were huge. They had these stands in the malls with just all these different characters, and they're like figures that your dad would kind of collect, but I used them as toys, and they were expensive, right? So when I got them, it was very luxurious gift, right? And so I had, like, I want to say growing up, I had probably say anywhere from 15 to 25 of them, and I would play with them nonstop. It'd be with my fucking Bionicles, my Kinects, my Lego, everything would be about Star Wars. It'd be like I used to have these Halo figurines that you could put together, and they're like this big, and they're the magnets or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I did a Halo and Star Wars crossover, and I just fucking played it nonstop. And then when I'd play with my Nerf fucking toys, I'd imagine I was a clone trooper or something. It was so good. Like honestly, that childhood spirit of Star Wars has always stayed within me, and I haven't felt in a while. Like even just talking about it, I'm getting super hyped up about it. So that's kind of how I was introduced to Star Wars, and the prequels again are my favorite. One, because I grew up with them, but two, the animated Clone Wars TV show added so much density to the prequels, which we will get into it. Actually, we could get into it right now.
Well, first I gotta flex this on you. Okay, so you talk about that. When Revenge of the Sith was still in the movie theaters, they had an R2-D2 thing that was full of soda pop. And
I know what you're talking about. I thought it was so cool.
I had it.
What?
The Max gave it to me, so
I'm so jealous. As a 20-year-old, I am jealous about this.
It was a full-size R2-D2 that you could put soda pops in. And what ended up happening was I've lived in one place for pretty much my whole life. So before all these East Indian people came in and took over the Max, there was like 3 girls there that knew me and my dad by name because we would go in almost 2 to 3 times a day. And one time there was a draw for it, and the person didn't show up. So they told my dad, "Hey, go get your son and get him in some Star Wars clothes." And my dad had a latex Yoda mask. He had a green lightsaber that he stole from one of his friends, and that was one of the first toys I played with as a kid, with a green lightsaber. And I dressed up as little Yoda.
Sorry, I'm gonna pause you. Nate Brad says, "Do you think that's a flex? I have a Jar Jar Binks fleshlight."
I love that. That's amazing.
Thank you for adding more things that I need to go talk to a therapist about.
Bro, I'm adding that to my wish list for Christmas. Let's
Oh my god.
Mayor Brad, send me one.
I'm going to yell at Arden if she even thinks about getting that for you.
Oh, that's so cool. Think of like the flaps it would have too. Like his ears are like, okay, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
His ears are the lame.
Alright, but it gets better from there.
Okay, but can I pause you right there?
Yes.
You just unlocked a memory that I forgot I had. And it was one of the earliest memories of Star Wars. Again, when Revenge of the Sith was coming out. I remember going to a Mac, it was near where you live, kind of. Actually, no, it was by Lawson Heights area. In
So where I live.
Yeah, we're around.
Where Kaylee is living, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I saw that and I thought it was a real R2-D2 because it looked real. I remember freaking out and like jumping up and down and like almost crying over it. And like I'd touch it and go, or whatever sound it'd make. I was freaking out.
Mine didn't have sound, it was legit.
I think it was just like a little box or something, like a sensor that would play every time you walk by or something.
Might have been a different one.
In fact, do you still have it?
No, we ended up getting rid of it because honestly it was super cool, but it was legitimately just a cooler with a plastic covering over it. So me and my dad just kind of eventually got rid of it, but yeah. But no, where that led to is that was getting close to around the time where I was starting to become obsessed with Lego.
Oh.
And Lego Star Wars was like my bread and butter, dude. I had so many of the Clone Wars things. When the Clone Wars movie, like the animated Clone Wars cartoon, came to the theaters, I saw that with my dad, and that Christmas I got the ATTE in a Lego set.
I would have fucking killed for that.
I had Cody, I had Rex, I had Phase 1 clones, Phase 2 clones.
Wow.
Like, when I talk Clone Trooper fanboy, I'm talking I have 3 of the 2006, like those blocky kids helmets. I got 3 of them, and I'm planning on like doing customizing and like actually turning them into
cool. See, for me, you were the cool kid if you had a Lego Darth Maul.
Yeah, I had it.
Oh,
And
dude,
no, this is where you're gonna hate me.
Dude, thing is though, is growing up, like before we moved to this town, I'm not gonna say the name because you know, but there was this really spoiled rude kid, was not a good influence on me. Like he would make me whiny by being around him. But he was so spoiled, his whole basement was Lego Star Wars. So I thought whenever I got a small set, I was like, oh, that's not cool to him. And he had so much cool stuff, and he like flexed it and made me feel like shit for being poor, right? I'd also like to say a funny memory, because you talked about your dad having some stuff or whatever. When Dad and I previously, at the end of last year, when we went and watched, what is it, fucking Return of... What's the ninth movie called again? Like, why am I blanking?
There's Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Rise of
The Last Jedi. Rise of Skywalker. When
Yeah.
we went and watched Rise of Skywalker, he wore a Chewbacca onesie and a Chewbacca mask. It surprised me when I showed up to watch it. He wore that into the theater, and they made him take off his mask because it could be considered threatening or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, are you kidding? And then they also made this little kid wearing this Kylo Ren fucking costume, like really good actually for his size. Like this kid was like fucking yay tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
They made him not bring in his lightsaber, and they also made him take off his mask. I'm like, that just destroys a kid's dreams. I'm sorry, we're watching Star Wars, right? But I just want to quickly read comments because I know Trevor said something. He said the best old school Return of the Jedi. Now it would be either The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens. I'm sorry, Trevor.
Okay.
The original trilogy it's fundamental to Star Wars. It's obviously fundamental.
But
I personally enjoy the prequels more because there's a lot more lore to it outside of just the movies. But everything that, whether it's the animated TV show and movie, or whether it's a comic, or whether it's a video game like the recent one that tied back to Order 66 a bit, it all fills in these gaps that make the movies just have so much explanation in the prequels and adds so much more density to it that it's really good.
Well, that's the reason why the Clone Wars is so beloved, because a lot of the people that like the prequel trilogy, they liked Hayden Christensen and his portrayal of Anakin.
I love him.
Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan. But the reason like everyone loves the Clone Wars so much is because we had the cartoons, we had the comic books, we had video games. Like, one of the reasons this new series is getting so much hate is because they haven't really given us much more to expand on.
Besides that Resistance show, which is a fucking joke. You can only watch it if you're 6 years old. Like, I tried watching it because I love Star Wars. And being open-minded, it's directed towards kids or whatever. It's unwatchable. Rebels was kind of there. It had really good moments. Rebels, the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, the last fight, so much meaning to it. Amazing. There was fragments of good parts with Rebels, but again, unwatchable.
Yes.
It was a little unwatchable. Clone Wars starts off as a kid show, then they're like, oh shit, we can use this as an opportunity to fill in gaps. Also, a lot of our fan base is older, so we can be adult with this, but not to the point where we're seeing blood and gore and shit, right?
Well,
where kids but adults can enjoy it, and that's why the Clone Wars is so beloved.
Well, you want to know why the Clone Wars went from like this very bland, very basic thing to what we all know and love is because they were losing funding.
Yeah.
So when they were losing funding, they were like, okay, well, this is going to get shut down eventually, so let's just do what we want. Let's be experimental. That's when they started to give the clone troopers personalities. They started to give them their own like stories and stuff. And it's when they started to dive into how honestly the Jedi are no better than the Sith if you really look at their code. Like, one of the reasons why Star Wars is so beloved is due to the fact that it has such a wide lore. One of the reasons Star Wars is getting shit on so much now is because when Disney purchased it, they said, all right, all the extended universe stuff that we did not make is no longer canon.
Yeah.
So that was, we lost the Old Republic. That's when we lost Grey Jedis. That's when we lost Boba Fett surviving the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
That's why the fact
that... Sorry, we'll get on to the Boba Fett topic. Continue.
That's why when Star Wars, after the popularity of The Mandalorian and stuff, and the fact that Star Wars Disney recognized, okay, we want to make money off of these chumps, we need to start bringing in these things that we took away from. Like, LucasArts Gaming was a fantastic Star Wars gaming company. They're the ones who created the Jango Fett Bounty Hunter game. They're the ones that created Clone Commandos, The Force Awakens 1 and 2, which are honestly still two of my favorite games that I will still play, even though the first one's got very blocky controls, and the second one has some of the lamest storytelling ever. But like, Star Wars, the reason it's so loved is because there is so much to it that you can put your own twist onto it. Like, what's really awesome about Star Wars right now is on the app TikTok, there is so much Star Wars.
Oh, I love.
At first, it was just like fans cosplaying as Kylo Ren.
Just not even that, but the art too. I'm sorry, TikTok gets a lot of hate because the media just drives that. There's underage girls dancing and it's for pedophiles and shit. I'm sorry, TikTok is a great platform that just needs to have that not be like that's just a small component. If you don't direct if you don't watch that content and you actually use the app and explore, it's such a beautiful opportunity for great content,
honestly.
but better. There's so much opportunity for art to be shown, for lore or fan lore or whatever to be shown. And sure, some of it's a little cringy, but who cares? It's people having fun. Like,
yeah.
Anyways, away from TikTok, I agree.
Well, no, there's one thing
beautiful.
out there that we gotta talk about is the fact that the fans are starting to take back Star Wars for themselves. One of my favorite things on TikTok is
And not just hating it all the time, too.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the things that I love about it is there's this group of people on there that call themselves the Republic Rangers. They're a group of clone trooper fanboys who created their own clone OCs and created stories for them. They have other cosplayers who cosplay as Sith and Jedi. There's one character that goes by the username of Commander Spray. He was good, and then he did follow through on Order 66, and now he's hunting his original brothers. So you've got these like really dramatic, effective audios where like they're talking about how they've lost their brothers and stuff, and it's amazing. And the reason like people should love Star Wars is the fact that it's got a little bit of everything. If you want to get into Star Wars, but you don't want to sit through the original trilogy, because I'll be straight up honest with you, nowadays that shit's gonna be boring as hell.
Yeah, it is. Unless you grew up with it, like I had to force my girlfriend to watch it, and then in the end she was very happy that she did. But she was a little bored at first, but she was excited because it was something I was passionate about.
Yeah.
Which, bless, love you, babe. You're amazing. But if we break up and like 3 years later, like someone watches, like, bro, what? I'm just kidding. Anyways,
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. We're not breaking up. I don't know. I'm sorry. She's in the chat now, so I'm in trouble.
No.
Also, 1 sec. So, thank you for whoever just subscribed. I can't remember what your name is.
We're losing Trevor's on his way out, so thanks for tuning in.
Thanks. And I'd just like to say, so far, I'm sorry, 6 viewers on a live stream, or even 5 to 4 for consistent. Thank you guys. This is probably one of the better podcasts we've had so far, and it's super motivating, so thank you guys. Anyways, I want to go back to Boba Fett quickly. So it's actually theorized, since the original clone actor in the original series is coming back for the Mandalorian Season 2, along with Ahsoka. So that's opportunities for Rex, Boba Fett, clones in general.
Cody's coming back.
Yeah, oh, is he?
Cody.
I did not know that.
The
I'm gonna lose my shit. Anyways, Boba Fett is actually expected to return.
It's not expected. He's completely confirmed. What's happening is
because at the end of that one episode, I thought it was Moff Gideon or whatever.
Grand Moff Tarkin.
No, remember in the Mandalorian Season 1, at the end of the one episode on Tatooine, there was the boots and the cape that walked up and found the corpse. I thought it was Boba Fett, but then when Moff Gideon was like the guy with I know this. Darksaber, thank you. I know these terms, guys. I'm just blanking right now because I'm on the spot. But I'm putting myself on the spot. But people are going back. Like, I thought those boots were Moff Gideon, but people dissected it a bit more and said like the clothing didn't fully line up. So it's expected it could be Boba Fett.
Well, that's the thing, is because with the fact that they're bringing back the original, like the live action Jason Tamari, I think is his name. He's this really buff-looking Maori dude. He was, for better reference, he was Aquaman's father in the new Aquaman movie. He was the original
I
actor.
didn't know that.
Yeah, he was the original actor for Jango Fett, who was then all the clones. So technically, that's his voice. And it has been confirmed that he is going to be returning not only as Boba Fett in the later years, so that's going to really affect it's going to be even better because it's going to really stick with their clowns. He's also going to be returning as Commander Cody in Obi-Wan.
And even Rex, and because Ahsoka has the live action, which I'm sorry, that actor looks amazing for Ahsoka.
Rosario Dawson? Oh yeah, that's my dad's
amazing.
that's my dad's celebrity crush.
Oh really?
Shout out to my dad.
But I just want to touch on Mandalorian Season 2 a bit. I'm excited with Ahsoka and Rex. As much as I love their screen time, I really feel like they're going to have maybe half an episode worth of time at most.
Well, yeah.
Which is honestly, I'm okay with. Because Ahsoka and Rex had a phenomenal time on screen in Season 7. And we got to talk about Season 7. Because what a blessing. I'm happy the show was canceled. That way our hopes were just dropped. And then when we heard it was coming back and we got what we got, thank you, Dave Filoni, for Avatar and Season 7 of Clone Wars. And just the future of Star Wars in general. And Mandalorian. Love you, Dave Filoni. You're my celebrity crush. I'm sorry, Jennifer Lawrence and fucking, what's her name? Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson. Sorry, you're off the table. Dave Filoni, you're Papa bless, man. Papa bless you. I love you, man. Thank you for doing what you've done for us.
All right,
Thank
if you want to get into the Clone Wars cartoon, one thing that we need to talk about is in Season 7.
Well, we should quickly finish Mandalorian Season 2.
Okay, well, yeah. So, Mandalorian Season 2. The reason Mandalorian was so good was because it didn't follow the Skywalker saga. It was its own entity, and it basically just took what you wanted to see from Star Wars and gave you that. And you got to see Mandalorians kicking ass. You got to see the Empire, but not the Empire.
Skywalker's fall. I'm sorry, there were small little things that added up to show why he went the way he did, which gave a lot more justice. Because I will admit, the prequel movies themselves aren't the best. They aren't good. But the Clone Wars makes them good. And the fact that they need additional lore that the average person watching might not watch to be good, makes them not good movies. But the Clone Wars gives reason to why Hayden Christensen was such a numb actor. Because, it was kind of hard comparing Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, to the Clone Wars Anakin Skywalker.
Well, that's because the Attack of the Clones that you see is the start of the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars I think they said it was supposed to have gone on for 20-something years.
But a problem people have with Christian Haydenson was his lack of emotion.
Well, yeah.
Whereas in Episode 2, he has lack of emotion, and then in the Clone Wars, he has all this emotion, he's this great character, and then Episode 3, he's numb. If he had more emotion in Episode 2, and then in Episode 3, before the Clone Wars existed, he went from energetic and upbeat, and then in the Revenge of the Sith, he was very emotionless. That would fill in the gap of all that damage that has happened to him in between.
Yeah.
The reason why he is numb is because he was taught not to have emotion his whole life. It was the corruption of the Jedi, and there was corruption within the Jedi, and I love how the Clone Wars also shows that. Which we can have a 24-hour podcast on the shit.
Honestly,
because our ADD and just jumping from different topics, because there's just so much to it. We might have to do an additional episode.
Probably, just do it.
Because I brought you back to Mandalorian Season 2, and now we're here again.
Yeah, well, the thing is, okay, so the reason that everyone loves the Clone Wars is because the Clone Wars movie we saw, it had cool characters, it introduced us to the Clone Troopers, which honestly, you can try and hate on the prequel series all you want. Clone Trooper armor looks amazing. Phase 1 armor
for sure.
Mint.
Even Phase 2 looks good. And Phase 2 shows that a bit more aggressiveness, or that evilness. And without even realizing, because Palpatine was his puppet master. And Palpatine, that's a whole episode in itself to talk about him.
Oh, yeah.
But with Mandalorian Season 2, you know what? I have no expectations for it. The ball is in your court, Dave Filoni. You've shown us that you can surprise us. I have no specific expectations of what I want you to do. I want you to do what your heart desires because it's in the right place. And even if some things get even if it's a little anticlimactic, honestly, you have earned your spot in your seat as a Star Wars writer, and I'm thankful for that. Anyways, enough to suck in his dick. I look forward to seeing Ahsoka and Rex and kind of seeing what happened. It's going to be a good follow-up in between Star Wars Rebels and Season 7 of the Clone Wars / Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see a little bit of that. If there's a lot of it, all power to it, I'm happy. But if there's a little bit, which is probably going to be because I still want our main characters to develop and grow and become to the same pedestal as Ahsoka or Anakin or Darth Vader or whoever is, right?
Absolutely.
Because Mandalorian is slowly earning his way up and up and up.
Well, it's not slow.
It's fast. Obviously, up there already. But at the start, when the Mandalorian was first released, it was okay, it's kind of random. But
Well, the reason a lot of people are loving The Mandalorian is because the fact that they aren't trying to do anything too astronomical with it. So,
Yeah.
the original, the prequels. The reason a lot of people didn't like them was because George Lucas was a cash grab. You can love Star Wars all you want. You can try and argue with me. It was to make money off of toys, and they did, and they made lots of money off toys. They got suckers like me to buy. For my dad to buy me the ATTE Lego set, which I think was like $120, just so I could get Rex.
Yeah.
That's it.
Aw.
That, like, they're dirty with it. It's a genius thing. But the reason.
Just look how expensive Lego Star Wars is.
Oh, shoot, don't even get me
Dude,
started.
a box this big is like $20 fucking bucks, $25.
It used
Canadian.
to be 15.
It used to be 10 to 15 growing up. And even then, $10 was a lot as a kid. When you're fucking 7 years old, you haven't even jerked off yet.
Oh my
It's just
word.
all you have to worry about in the world is Star Wars and fucking your ham sandwiches and making sure you eat your full meal at lunch or whatever. Like, Lego Star Wars was where it was at.
Yeah.
It was simple times, man. Simple.
All right, so
Already says I'll buy you a bet. That's one thing I want to. You want to buy me a Lego
What the
Millennium
hell,
Falcon?
sis?
Shut up! You want to buy me a Lego Millennium Falcon or a Death Star? Maybe just hint, hint, wink, wink. That's totally fine. You can
That's
do it.
$500.
I know.
What the hell?
Don't tell me that. I'll feel less.
What
I'll
the
feel
what the
bad.
hell? You're gonna buy him things? I'm the older
Dude,
brother to you.
Arden's literally gonna buy me a lightsaber for my birthday.
I know.
It's okay if not, but it's okay.
If not my foot, she's gonna get it for
I
you
know.
because she's talking.
I feel
to me.
bad. It's so expensive. Star Wars shit's. Why you gotta date a guy who's into Star Wars? Star Wars is expensive. Anyways, Mandalorian season 2. What are some things you do look forward to it? And then we'll move into the Clone Wars after
Okay,
that.
so the reason I'm excited for Mandalorian Season 2, and one of the things I'm actually really hoping that they don't do, is with Mandalorians, it is a big part of their culture to keep the helmet on. That is a big deal. So for the fact that the Mandalorian in the final episode finally reveals his face, that's kind of a big deal.
But he didn't reveal it to a living being.
Yeah, exactly.
So it gave us the ability to see who it is, which I'm happy as an actor. I loved him in Kingsman 2, and he was in another show.
I don't really know him. What I was happy was...
Oh,
the fact that-
Narcos! He was in Narcos. Great show. Anyways, continue.
What I was happy with the fact that they didn't choose a pretty boy.
Yeah.
Because the big thing is if they choose a pretty boy, they're going to take the mask off. If you want to see the perfect example of that, go watch the original Judge Dredd movie. They had Sylvester Stallone play Judge Dredd, and he had his helmet off the entire movie. In the comic books, he's always had his helmet on. So the fact that they're choosing someone who, like, no offense to the guy, he's not like someone that girls are going, ooh, step on me, kind of shit.
Step on me.
Listen, girls are kinky nowadays.
Fucking curb stomp me, Daddy!
I mean, that's how we show affection. We want them to bludgeon us with blunt and sharp objects to the point where we
This
can't
is how I
function.
show my love.
Okay, let's go back to Star Wars.
Okay. But no, so what I want to see from season 2 of The Mandalorian is I want them to keep talking about the fact that this is not the Empire. That's one of the things that I really liked.
Yeah.
Like when you saw those scout troopers being idiots and like just kind of talking like people.
Which
That's
those
because
two
they-
actors are actually comedians. Continue. That's
Oh,
because
really?
they. Yeah,
I
you
know
recognize their face.
Huh. Well, the
Camera.
big thing is they explain very well that this is not the Empire. The Empire has been divulged. These are ragtag factions. These are like mercenaries. That's why the stormtroopers in that one were not as effective as the stormtroopers you would see in the movies.
I mean, I'm sorry, they were a little. They
were better.
They were better skillfully, but that's just because there was better filming and animation.
They
and
weren't
shit.
better than the 501st though.
Oh fuck no.
And quick little side project. You want to know why in Empire Strikes Back the stormtroopers could actually hit their shots and everything? That's the 501st. The 501st, if you follow the Clone Wars, is Rex's team. That's Anakin's team. That's the clones he's handpicked for his elite operation.
And those are the ones that followed him into the Jedi
Exactly.
Temple.
Those are the
Order
clones
66
that
first
followed
happened.
straight up and murdered the Jedi and the younglings and everything. It just goes to show you that like the Empire, if they really want to send in something to get the shit done,
Yeah.
they will send in proper things. And that's why I love the fact that there was like video games and then there's movies, and that's why The Mandalorian is so good, is because one thing that a lot of people I find is they don't want so much force and lightsabers and stuff because it's kind of overpowered. But at the same time, we still love it. Think about it.
It's kind of a gift when we see it. For
yeah,
example,
Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One. Oh.
Think about it. Everyone, all these people are talking about. We want to see a Civil War movie, or we want to see both sides, and I still do. I want to see why people are joining the Empire. That's why when the Battlefront 2 was announcing a campaign that you were finally going to play as the Empire, I was losing my mind because I was finally going to see why stormtroopers enlisted, because that's what it was. It was, at first it was drafted, but then it was an enlistment type of thing. So you could see where these people would start to realize that the Empire was truly evil. But one of the big things
I'll
that...
bring it back so you can continue. I'm just gonna take Coda out of here.
He's just passed out. He's
Yeah, I know. It's just here. 1 second. I'm spinning.
All right.
I gotta take it one.
Getting back to what I was saying. So it just shows all this interesting aspect of like both sides of the story. So when Rogue One shows up and we don't get lightsabers throughout pretty much the entirety of the movie, and the final scene where Darth Vader shows up, and it's Darth Vader, it's like comic book Vader. Like we're talking, in the comics there's one panel where he's legitimately surrounded completely by, I think he said there was like 500 men or something, and these rebels shout at him, "You're surrounded," and Vader just says, "All I am surrounded is by fear and dead men," and then proceeds to wipe out them all. The only damage that happened to him was a couple blaster wounds to his outfit. Like, it just goes to show you what can be done with proper storytelling with these big characters. And that's why The Mandalorian was done so well, was because it was a very simple story. We didn't have crazy Force stuff, and like the fact that even the Mandalorian himself didn't know what the Force was. Because all of a sudden Baby Yoda started pulling out the Force and he was all confused. And the Mandalorian itself was even starting to reference things from the old universe, from the stuff that was no longer canon, the Old Republic. Because the reason Mandalorians are so beloved for most of the fans was because they were these crazy, powerful warriors that could take on Jedis. Like, in the comics, they even were still using like lead projectiles and stuff because it didn't matter if you deflected it, you'd still get shrapnel in the eye. So when The Mandalorian came out and they started treating the Mandalorian name with respect and like a dignity, it gave a lot of these like fanboys who were mad because they lost their extended universe hope. And that's the thing that Star Wars is starting to do right now, is they're starting to bring back the stuff that we used to love. Like in the final movie, when Rey is lying there and you can hear all the voice actors from Jedis, like you had Hayden Christensen, Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, Samuel L. Jackson, you had all the voice actors from the original Jedis talking, basically saying do the whole Rey get up thing. It's even confirmed that one of the Jedis that you could hear in that scene was Darth Revan. And Darth Revan is Old Republic, and Old Republic is a completely untapped market.
Which I'm very excited to see.
Exactly. One of the reasons, I keep saying one of the reasons, anyways, one of the facts that everyone loves about Darth Revan was he was a Jedi that was brainwashed into a Sith, and then from Sith was able to kind of overcome his brainwashing, but understand both sides. And technically Darth Revan...
Didn't he go, like, Revan go good, bad, or he started off good, bad, and like he went back and forth, and finally he was like, fuck it, I don't know much about him, and I've limited myself to it because I want to heard he was coming to actual canon.
Yeah, so what Darth Revan was he was a Jedi, and he was one of the best warriors. He was...
In the Old Republic.
He stopped the Mandalorian War. He was one of the Jedi. He took out the Mandalorian leaders, single-handedly ending the Mandalorian War against the Jedi. And then he was brainwashed to being a Sith, and then overcame his brainwashing, but he was able to understand both the light and the dark. He understood that both sides of the Force were corrupt, and that's where the term Grey Jedis come in. Grey Jedis
Which I love the idea.
Yeah. Honestly, the closest thing to a canon Grey Jedi was Dooku or Darth Tyrannus and Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn.
They were supposedly...
Which Qui-Gon Jinn is probably one of the most true Jedi.
Nope.
In the in the cinematic universe.
Nope. Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan was.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
No, actually, the
But
Jedi
didn't-
hated Qui-Gon because he would question.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say he was like the more like he was more like
He was the closest Grey Jedi to canon.
yeah, but he was the most like how do I put it, like least corrupted,
Yeah.
least brainwashed.
Yeah.
Like in the Jedi aspect.
Well, that's because his master was.
And that's why the
Dooku.
Force allowed him to have eternal life in the Force, because he was the one who discovered it, and then he taught Yoda, which we saw at the end of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And then from Yoda, Obi-Wan, etc.
Yeah. Dooku was one of the. I can't remember what they were called, but they were like 4 Jedis that were hated by the Jedi Council due to the fact that they were learning about the dark side of the Force. They were learning from Sith holocrons, but they weren't corrupted by it. So technically, if you really wanted to, Qui-Gon Jinn could have probably harnessed dark aspects of the Force, the chokes, the push it, not the lightning and the choking and that kind of things.
Yeah.
Because that's what they believed is like, why should this knowledge be withheld? Like,
Yeah.
withholding knowledge in itself.
Didn't Mace Windu kind of go down that route too? He kind of learned a bit of the Sith, but he never acted on it. He used the anger of his opponents. He never used his anger, but he used the anger of his opponents to his advantage, and he used their anger to help him with his combat.
Yes.
He didn't just like use it in a strategical way. He literally used it in the way he attacked.
Yeah.
He fed off their anger. That way he didn't give in to his anger and have his emotion, which I think is so cool. Which is why I was actually watching a video talking about why Mace Windu versus Darth Sidious was a lot like Mace Windu had the leverage over Sidious. Besides that, I mean, Sidious wanting to manipulate Anakin to kill Mace Windu. Besides that, but Mace Windu could also defeat Darth Sidious way better than Yoda did versus Darth Sidious. Yoda actually had to flee. And it's because Mace Windu took the hate, which I'm sorry, when you're going against Darth Sidious, the most hateful being in the existence of the universe, when you have that fuel behind you, but you still have your control, that makes you strong, and that's why he was able to beat. I found that interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
That's why he was able to defeat Darth Sidious, where Yoda had to flee and couldn't defeat.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Qui-Gon Jinn's death was one of the reasons why Palpatine was so happy about it, because Qui-Gon was coming close to uncovering the separatist plot that was being formed. Qui-Gon was starting to put his nose in places it shouldn't belong, along with Dooku. When Qui-Gon Jinn died and he saw that the Jedi didn't do anything to deal with it, that's why Qui-Gon defected from the Jedi and joined the separatists.
Yeah.
So honestly, if Qui-Gon hadn't died, Anakin would not have turned to the dark side.
Yeah.
And the Clone Wars probably would have never happened because they would have been able to figure it out.
And then the story would have been boring too. Or not? I mean, I guess it could have. Actually, I feel like there's a whole different universe.
That could have gotten to an even darker universe,
But
because the amount of hate and evil that Palpatine had in his blood, he killed Padme. He's the one who killed Padme. She didn't lose the will to live. Palpatine reached out through the Force and killed Padme to cement Anakin's turn to the dark side.
What I actually found
died in the Revenge
interesting about Anakin / Darth Vader is there was a scene, and there's a comic book part. I don't know why this memory just triggered. This is also just off my knowledge of watching YouTube things. I don't actually read the comics. I just watch YouTube about the comics. So at the end of season 7, spoiler if you guys don't know, Darth Vader picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber and holds the blue lightsaber and ignites it. And it almost looks like it was theorized that Anakin came back, and holding the blue lightsaber signified this evil entity coming back for a second. In the comics, actually, when Darth Vader, I believe, went to go get his lightsaber crystal, or he obtained it by killing a Jedi, he stole it. When he was trying to make it bleed or corrupt it so it turned red.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
He had a vision.
The crystal showed him what could happen.
Yeah, and it was him going back to the light side. His eyes turned blue. Was it in the vision his eyes turned blue? Or was it no, it was in real life.
It was in the vision.
Oh, it was in the vision.
It was, so what it ended up
I thought
happening
as he was having this vision, his eyes turned blue. You explain it because you know it better. My memory's foggy.
So what happened was in order to turn a lightsaber crystal red, it's a kyber crystal, which is technically a living thing. So you need to bleed it. You need to inflict the pain into it to
Put your
corrupt
hate
it.
into it.
Exactly. So what ended up happening was when he tried to corrupt the kyber crystal, his eyes went blue and he went back and killed Palpatine and went to Obi-Wan and apologized. But the reason he rejected that vision was because Padme was dead.
Yeah.
If Padme had not died at all, there could have been a hope for Anakin.
Yeah.
But when Padme died is when Anakin Skywalker himself died. And that's why Darth Vader and Anakin are two separate entities.
Yeah.
That's why in Rebels, when Ahsoka faces off against Vader, yeah, there's that moment where the voice actor from the Clone Wars, Anakin, you can hear him talk a little bit, but then it goes straight back to and it goes straight.
Then you will die.
Exactly.
Oh, so cool.
It's to show that there was nothing that could save Vader. The only thing that could save Vader was a connection. Exactly, was a connection to Padme, which was Luke and Leia.
Yep. Which I think is so good because like when you're watching the Clone Wars, like how is this guy gonna be bad and like as bad? And I'm sorry, besides maybe that one scene of
there was plenty of scenes.
No, but beside that one scene of Rogue One where you saw Darth Vader's true wrath, like you saw how evil he was in the original series, but you didn't see him fucking popping off, swinging the sword, fucking putting people to the ceiling and slicing them in half. In the comics, you see a lot more of that, but in the cinematic universe, you don't see that.
He kills an entire infirmary. There's a clone.
But he doesn't. They don't show like they just kind
in
of
the comics.
Yeah. It's just like, where was it going with this? Oh, it's so wholesome. Where it's like when you're watching the Clone Wars, you're thinking, how is this good, lighthearted guy going to be this evil being? And then when you see the downfall a bit, and then you see his quick downfall into Darth Vader, you see this be a different person. But I love how through everything before the original series, or even before Return of the Jedi, you know at the end, like if you've watched it before, you know in the end he's going to be good again, he's going to be at peace, or whatever. It's always reassuring to know that because of just how bad of a life he has in the Clone Wars and how bad of a life he has as Darth Vader. But it kind of gives hope, for me as a fan, if I really overanalyze it, it makes me feel like, no matter what I'm going through, it's going to be okay in the end.
Eventually, there's a turning point, no matter what.
Exactly, or that there's always that hope, I guess. And I know it's super nerd, like that's so fucking nerdy to compare to real life. But if you actually really just put the nerdy, or just accept the nerdiness for what it is, it's really quite beautiful the way that Star Wars can actually kind of represent your life.
Yeah,
and kind of how sometimes there's that evil that takes over and you do evil, selfish decisions or whatever.
Exactly. That's one of the
reasons.
Even
if you're a good person.
That's one of the reasons why Kylo Ren became one of my favorite characters, was because Kylo Ren was never inherently evil. He never was Sith. Because if you look at his eyes throughout the series, his eyes were never yellow as the Sith. He was never even really close to it. He was just a sad, confused boy.
He was like the embodiment of this guy, an E-boy. In Star Wars. That's why you're cosplaying as him.
Oh god, I gotta get on that. That's coming up. Anyways, but no. One of the things that I learned that I thought was really interesting is Anakin has never not been a slave. He was a slave in the literal sense.
Yep.
He was a slave to his fear.
He was
a slave to his anger. He was a slave to the Jedi Council. He was a slave to Palpatine, and he was a slave to his own.
Well, his whole life was constructed as a slave under Palpatine. He was always had the strings pulled in a certain direction to lead him to where he was for Palpatine. There was always that. And the one time he wasn't a slave was when Luke took off his helmet in his last dying breath.
Yeah, let me see. I want to see my son with my own eyes.
Yeah, and that was I didn't get even though I watched them on the VHS repeated. I forgot to see that when I was introduced to Star Wars. Growing up, every time, every single day, I had those 3 movies on cycle on the VHS, and I'd leave my room and go do chores. I'd come back and be playing. I had them on cycle, man. I watched Star Wars nonstop. I fell asleep to it. I woke up to it. I went home to it. I was thinking about it when I wasn't at home. Anyways, getting back, it was really, I never got that as a kid, but when I was older, there's a lot more uncovered. It wasn't just swaying swords and cool people destroying bad people.
Yeah, no. That's one of the things I love the most about Star Wars is the fact that there really is no such thing as good and evil.
Yeah.
The only real evil in there was Palpatine. But even then, like
Look at Darth Maul. You can have sympathy for it.
yeah, Darth Maul was
forced.
Darth Maul was a toy and discarded by his master, and then when he tried to come back to his master, was discarded and.
And even then, before on his dying breath, he said, "Avenge us." Like you saw the hate leave him when he was dying in Obi-Wan's arms, and he said, "He's the one who's gonna save us." Because he's like, "You're protecting someone," and Obi-Wan's like, "Yeah," which was
Obi-Wan thought it was going to be. Obi-Wan thought Luke was the chosen one. Anakin was always the chosen one, but
yeah,
when he went to the dark side, which honestly is another thing in
but I find it beautiful how. Like you said, there's no pure evil besides Palpatine. Because even Darth Vader had a good ending. Darth Maul had a good ending. Count Dooku not so much, but he was
about to.
Yeah, he was about to. Because you saw the look in his face of a child before when he realized he was about to die from Anakin. Because Palpatine betrayed him and used him as a tool.
Yeah, the whole reason Dooku left the Jedi Order was because his Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn was killed.
Well, Grievous was actually kind of pure evil after a certain point, but yeah.
Grievous was a hunter. Grievous was a part of a hunter race and given the chance to continue his hunting. That's why Grievous kept the lightsabers as his collection. The Jedi to him were prey. He was a hunter. And if you want to say that hunters are inherently evil, then I got bad news for a lot of people out there. That's the beauty of Star Wars, is because there's all this. You can have these discussions. You can be talking. Star Wars can be, to you as a kid, cool armor, cool lightsabers, cool spaceships.
Or it can mean the world if you're smart enough to comprehend it. But that's the beautiful thing, is when you grow up with it, you start picking up on a little more things because you've gone through a little more life experience that you can relate to and connect to. Every time I watch Star Wars, I pick up on something. Every single time. I've watched Star Wars hundreds of times, and I still pick up on small things. You'll be like, oh yeah, it's amazing how this connects to this. Oh shit, now I realize this connects to this new thing that just came out, which also connects to this, and then 6 months in the future, oh, it connects to this. And then it explains the whole fucking concept.
Yeah, that's why Star Wars is... That's why people love Star Wars. It's not just...
And there's so much gaps.
It's the fact that they're constantly filling in plot holes. There's
or adding new things to fill in.
You want to hear something cool? If you want to see something amazing, every Order 66 scene in all forms of media except for the Lego, if you line them up at the correct times, as Palpatine says, Commander Cody, it is time to execute Order 66, every single one of them lines up. From Cal Kestis' a game in Jedi the Fallen
Which
Order,
was, I'm sorry, I freaked the fuck out when I saw that scene.
to the episode 7 part where Ahsoka could feel all of it, to the movies, to other video games. Like, Order 66, they connected it. And Star Wars, that's one of the things I give it so much praise for, is it started off as this very grand and broad idea, and they've been continuously bringing it into more points.
But still keeping opportunity for the universe to expand and expand.
Yes, so that's where I understand where a lot of people were mad at the sequel trilogy for going for the cop-out of the Skywalker.
Yeah.
The Skywalker franchise, I love it, but I don't think the sequel trilogy should have been that.
But here's the thing, Logan, is we're going to look back, let's just say 5-10 years. The amount of gaps that they have filled for the sequel trilogy is going to make those movies amazing, just like how they did with the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
If it stays in the right hands, of course. And
well,
if political agendas, for the most part, stay up, like what Rian Johnson did. One thing that's beautiful is we can look at, let's just pretend the whole Star Wars franchise of the 9 movies. If you look between episode 1 and 2, you're going to eventually release stuff that fills in a lot of gaps between episode 1 and 2, and a lot of stuff prior, which I think is what they're moving towards. Then, they've already finished, in my opinion, filling in the gaps between episode 2 and 3. They're starting to fit, like, in the past 5 years, they started to fill in the gaps between episode 3 and 4. If we look with, I believe, The Fallen Order was one. We look at, What was it? It was just on mine. Mandalorian. We looked at
Yeah,
Mandalorian season
Mandalorian
2
is
as
like-
well. Rebels. They're filling in a lot there. Same with why can't I think of one example that I was just thinking of? There's something else that fills in the gap with that. They're moving in a direction that fills in a lot of those gaps, which is going to make the prequel and original series look a lot more connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to make everything a lot better as we continue going.
Well, I think
And
we
I
should
look
probably
forward to
start wrapping this up. We're at an hour-long podcast already.
We normally go an hour 15 to 30. Where are you feeling though?
Oh, I thought. Oh no, I'm down to keep
I'm
going.
down.
Are you
So,
good over there?
I just think it's beautiful. The reason why you and I say that the prequels are so good is going to be the very reason we are going to have a lot more appreciation for the sequel
It's
trilogy
probably
in
why
the
our
future.
children are gonna love the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, because there's a lot of good there. Sure, they could have done a lot more with Kylo Ren as a character in the movies, but just wait till we get our Clone Wars series or movie or something that fills in those gaps.
Well, I mean, they're already starting to do that. There's a Kylo Ren comic book series that shows Kylo Ren his fall to the dark side. It literally shows you where the Knights of Ren were and how evil the Knights of Ren were.
Yeah.
The Knights of Ren, there was one guy who was legitimately just covered in scars, and his whole thing was in order to join the Knights of Ren, you needed to have a good
The Knights of Ren
kill.
is another example. Like,
Honestly, I'm not going to spoil it. Just go read the Kylo Ren comic book, and you will start to understand more and more of why Adam Driver's portrayal of like this deluded, sad, confused, lost little boy, honestly, was so fantastic. Like,
and I can't wait to see more on him with being trained with Luke. I'd love to see a whole comic on Luke starting his little Jedi training thing and then seeing it go up to the point where Kylo Ren and Luke kind of hash it out. Which I love how the movie showed both perspectives of Kylo Ren and Luke. I love that because that's another thing you can relate to. Like, I can relate to very much situations between him and I, I can relate very much to situations that him and I have been through where we've clashed heads, but when we took a step back and talked about both perspectives, it made our perceptions of our corruption that caused us to clash heads be leveled out and be like, okay, we're just two people with different minds. And that's what happens if you're watching too. Think about every situation, and it's something I live by. Think of whenever you get in a fight with anyone, look at your perspective, be fair to yourself, that is important, but put down your stubbornness and look at the other person's perspective. What could have caused them to do this? Even if they did a terrible, evil thing like cheating on you, what led them to that point?
yeah.
You can forgive, not forget. There's obviously consequences, but yeah, and that's sorry.
Yeah,
but
no,
going
so
back,
one
that's
point-
what I love about.
One point that I want to bring you up to is you were talking about like the lights, the fact that I have the red and the blue on you.
Yeah.
You're talking about how we can relate, because the thing is, we're two sides of the same coin. He grew up in a small town, had a sheltered life. I grew up in the city.
Because of that talent, more or
Yeah.
less.
I grew up in the city with financial issues, with fake friends.
Seeing bad
bullying.
people.
I've
the streets
I've had
and
a
shit,
pretty
like-
rough. Honestly, my life hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. So that's where.
Nor has anyone's, right?
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why I can understand much more of a darker look on life. It's why I
Yeah.
can understand pessimistic points of views. It's why when someone you love does something like says some shit or does some shit, I can sit back after I've let my emotions cool, sit there and go, okay, well, this is why they did this. I understand why they did this. I can talk to them about why they did this.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really a big deal. And like honestly,
Kylo Ren really is a character that a lot of people can connect to. And
Yeah,
that's why he is, in my opinion, the best character in the sequel.
Kylo Ren had all this on him, and when Vader was revealed to be a Skywalker, all of a sudden Kylo Ren, who's got Skywalker DNA in him, has got this fear of knowing what his grandfather did. Vader was at no point a good guy. In comic books, there is an issue where a clone trooper gets into the ranks of the 501st, earns Vader's respect, and they go to a city, and he gets injured and saved by them. When Vader goes into the infirmary, this trooper basically yells at them, "Surrender now, bow before your leader," and they stood up. These are injured men and women in a hospital, and Vader, as soon as he sees the slightest bit of retaliation, wipes them out. No second chances. That's why Vader was this big threat. So now all of a sudden, Kylo Ren, knowing that this is in his DNA, knows that there is this darkness in him, and that's what Snoke/Palpatine preyed on, was that little bit of doubt. Because how many times in your life have you been in a situation where there's been a slight little bit of a bad thing, and you've overfixated on it, and you brought it into reality?
Yeah.
It was something that was,
or you fear something so much that your actions cause it to happen.
Exactly. That's why Kylo Ren is such a relatable character, because he's honestly just a very sad, broken person. In the comic book of his story, there's not a single point where you see him doing something inherently evil.
Yeah.
Like, he's got such an interesting story, and I want them to make... I don't want a Kylo Ren solo series. I want them to start off simple. They've already started with a comic book. Start pushing it into maybe a video game.
Yeah, a Kylo Ren video game would be phenomenal.
I mean, he's a super fun character to play in the Star Wars Battlefront 2
cool
game.
lightsaber, cool mask.
Yes,
so much
Yes, I
opportunity.
get the lightsaber is completely unpractical, and technically the blade could just go click and cut right in half.
But that's the thing,
it
is
looked
he has...
cool. Let me love it.
That's just the same concept with any lightsaber. Because if you think about it, the light itself is weightless. So when you're moving it, when you have a hilt in the sword, you feel the weight of it. It controls your motion a bit. When you if you're thinking on more of a physics, if you're feeling weightless, like even when I'm playing Beat Saber on the VR, I try. Okay, let's not cut myself. I instantly do. The reason why he doesn't hurt himself, nor any like Jedi normally hurts himself, is because the Force gives him the ability to have that connection to the saber, which prevents him from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the light whip. If you think of the light whip, which isn't canon, I believe, it's like a lightsaber that's a whip. It's probably one of the most deadly lightsabers you can go against. But if you're not a master with it, if the Force doesn't choose you to do that, you are going to kill yourself in seconds.
Yeah, there's like...
So that's the explanation for his lightsaber and why the hilt is practical in this case.
Honestly, if you have any interest in getting to know Star Wars, find what interests you. If you are someone who is interested in like the lightsabers and stuff, start looking into...
There's a lot of that for you.
Exactly, there's plenty of that. If you're someone like me...
Same with fan films. Sorry, look into fan films if you want lightsaber fights.
Exactly.
Better than a sequel trilogy. It's amazing.
If you're someone who's interested in learning more about the soldier side of things, there's fan films, there's comic books.
There's millions of stories of different clones.
The Clone Wars TV show gives a personality to the clones. They are no longer just faceless soldiers.
Okay, yeah, we haven't even talked about that, dude.
Season 7.
We haven't even talked about the clones or the fucking Order 66. Like, we have briefly.
Truthfully,
clones are the best part of.
Yeah, we're in 7
honestly,
minutes. 30.
And do you want to wrap up by looking at the comments on your phone and just giving a quick read through of them and see if there's any important things?
Yeah, sure.
We can do that at the end though. But let's. Do we see the clones for a whole nother podcast?
Yes, because that will be the one where I bring both my clone trooper helmets, so you can wear one, I can wear one.
Yeah. We're gonna have to.
Because
it's gonna be Zealous podcast number blank, Star Wars, like the clones of
just
Star
call
Wars
it
or
Attack of
something.
the Clones, dude.
Something like that, yeah. Like
the clone troopers have so much
it's a
to them.
whole different. I can't believe we haven't even talked about that, dude. That because Logan and I can both say that at least in my top 3 favorite things about Star Wars as a whole, like if we were just to say lightsabers or Jedi or Sith or Tatooine or something, Logan and I are on the clones fucking thing.
Clones is number 1. I'm sorry.
Yeah. For me, I'd have to
Troopers
sit
will
down
always
and
be
think a
number
lot. But yeah, like after watching the Clone Troopers and all the comics, the clones, like Order 66, talking about Cody, talking about Rex, not even just Rex, talking about fucking...
Cody didn't want to do Order 66. There's a brief moment of hesitation. Cody has never hesitated. Cody is legitimately the definition of a good soldier follows orders. Yeah. Watch that movie. There's the slightest second of hesitation because there's a pain.
Not even just the clones on the big
Even when he says fire, you can hear his...
Dude, but not even that. Fives? Or the fucking
5.
General Krell. Yeah, on the Battle of
Umbra.
Thank you. That was heartbreaking. That's a whole nother 20 minutes conversation. So
you want to see? Okay, so one of the things that the clone troopers are slowly learning throughout the TV show is that they do have their own individuality,
and they're not just expendable, even though their brain says they are.
That is what they were bred to do. They are cannon fodder. That's why clone troopers, honestly, a good portion of them were happy to commit Order 66 because a lot of Jedis treated them like that. Yeah. Cannon fodder. So when they were finally given the go-ahead to pull the trigger on them, some of them were more than happy to.
And you know what? Honestly, the clones are a topic that deserve me and Logan to go through a bunch of comic books and a bunch of stuff in the Clone Wars and even in the fucking movies themselves. Write down a list and talk about it. They deserve a lot more of an
They deserve a whole ass episode.
So we're going to end it off on that. So what we're going to do is we're just, for all the people who have commented, we're going to look through, not all the comments, but we're going to look through them and talk about them. And by that should wrap up the 100, or hour 20-ish, hour 30-ish minute.
Okay.
There's a lot of comments.
Jesus Christ.
Here. Oh, we gotta pause this though. So our lo-fi beats are gonna have to stop for a second. So holy shit, this was a really good podcast. So
Yay, Star Wars.
So we'll just you talk for a bit. I'm gonna figure out some shit.
Okay, so we'll start.
Oh, I already found one. Okay, Nerd Brad says Ray do be one of the worst female characters. I would disagree.
Okay.
I think she deserves some credit. I think it's one of those
Daisy
situations.
really did good with what she was given.
Yeah. And her character suits.
If you want to be mad, don't be mad at the actors or anything like that. Like the hate that Kelly Marie Rose Tran got for her portrayal of Rose was disgusting, and it made me very sick of a lot of Star Wars fanboys.
And that purple hair bitch in episode 8 is the worst female character. Fuck that girl.
I could argue with that one.
I'm just salty because of the political agendas. Anyways, no, but Ray. Okay, so we just gotta sift through this quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like Ray's gonna be one of those things, like Hayden Christensen.
Oh,
wasn't
absolutely.
a big fan of, but give it 5 years where there's more lore, more shit focusing on the sequel trilogy because they're still filling in gaps between the prequel and the original trilogy. Ray will be a great character.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of potential, just like Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is a little more likable based off of that. But again, we fill in more of the blanks. We get to see more of that training. We get to see more character development, a lot more explanation, etc. She's going to be a Skywalker, but she isn't, and just rating bad. I feel like again, filling the gaps is going to make more emphasis and density behind that.
Well, the reason she did that was because her. Okay, so spoiler alert: if you haven't seen the final movie, it's revealed. I already revealed this one to you. It's revealed that Rey is in fact a Palpatine, and the reason she goes by Skywalker is because the Skywalkers have a very noble name, and they are responsible for bringing a lot of good. And honestly, Leia became her mother figure that she never had. So that wasn't a weird cop out. That was her way of honoring Leia, which in a way was a way of honoring.
That's why I saw it. It was a way of honoring. Yeah. Which, do you want to know something? I got to see Carrie Fisher a couple months before she died. She came to Saskatoon during the Comic-Con. And,
yeah,
I got to see her from afar because the line was just way too long.
Smurf's sister is technically got proposed to by Carrie Fisher.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. Okay,
Nerd Brad, you have some really funny comments. You want to go full nerd mode? Get a glow-in-the-dark condoms and have a saber battle. You want to go to the shell and grab some glow-in-the-dark condoms and go. And when you're done, you go. Anyways, moving on.
No comment.
Okay, yes, we will talk about this more when Rex welded his Phase 1 helmet with Phase 2 helmet. So cool, it makes him so unique, and it gives him the signifying helmet he deserves to represent him as a main character, but also to keep you remember he's still.
They still haven't really explained why he did that.
I think it's just a uniqueness and give him a staple, just kind of like Darth Vader's helmet or Jango
Yeah, I
Fett's
feel
helmet.
like what it was just to show him as a completely different character compared to the others. So that when Season 7 did come, it makes a little more sense as to why Rex does what he does. I'm not going to say because I have someone in the room who I've already ruined one big
I
thing.
can't believe she's sitting here doing a Star Wars podcast. I'm
I
finding out now
ruined the
she has.
Palpatine thing. I felt so
No, but
bad.
the fact she's sitting here doing a Star Wars podcast and doesn't seem never there.
Oh, don't
She should
worry.
be expected to have. I'm
Don't
surprised I didn't say spoilers.
I'm going to fix that.
Good. My girlfriend sat down and watched every single movie with me.
I've watched every single movie many a times. I just haven't seen the newest one.
It's just not every single movie then. Just saying. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to be annoying. Okay, the fact that they made Starkiller not canon because of how powerful he was is crazy. Yeah,
okay.
but I'm sorry. It's kind of.
Starkiller was one of those things where he was made for the video game, and it was legitimately just to give you
And
what
Star Wars
you wanted.
yeah.
You've always thought about how overpowered the Force could technically be. So they finally said, all right, you want a game where you can literally just decimate every single opponent with ease, like run through an entire battalion of stormtroopers they were nothing. That's what the Force Unleashed was. That's why the Force Unleashed is so good. The Force Unleashed, honestly, like, the reason they had to decanonize it is because he beat Vader and Palpatine.
I think he's really yeah. There's just I think he's a great concept that could potentially come
Yeah,
back.
absolutely. There's so much they could do with it.
the
They just
thing
need to
is-
tone him down a
is-
little bit.
If they kept him canon, because at the time when this game was released, it was when I got my Wii, so I was probably 11, 12 years old. Star Wars wasn't going nowhere. Star Wars was just the
Star
six
Wars was
movies.
a dead
It
franchise.
wasn't going anywhere. So I think they had to do it to open up a lot more opportunity. And if they had to sacrifice that, the Starkiller in the Force Awakens, or not Force Awakens, the Force Unleashed as canon to give us things like Mandalorian, the Clone Wars in general in season 7, I am happy with that.
I can get into all the Force
Yeah.
Unleashed stuff you want if you need
We
to.
can talk about that next.
Yeah.
Jango Fett could have lived. He had
No, he couldn't.
no. Oh, sorry. Jango Fett could have lived. He had the best position on Geonosis, but then he jumped down. Fair.
Yeah, he was.
Jar Jar flashlight. We talked about that. I got the Jabba the Hutt one too. Oh, the.
Let's move.
I feel like
next.
Jabba the Hutt
No,
would actually be
just
more of a dildo
Stop!
because of the.
Stop! Just move on. Don't do that.
Best scene ever is when Obi-Wan is telling Padme about Anakin killing the younglings. Oh, and then he had to cover his mouth to stop him from laughing. Like Ewan McGregor, as an actor, he had to actually add in him covering his mouth because when he told
He also
Padme.
was making lightsaber noises every time they were fighting.
Yeah, I love Ewan McGregor. Man.
Ewan McGregor's a
Ewan
G.
McGregor. Clone Wars connected everything. True. Ahsoka's probably coming to Mandalorian. We talked about that. Rebels art is garbage. I agree. The animation I do
okay.
not like. I understand the cool little thin lightsabers. There's
No.
a lot more behind that. But I just don't. I was never a big fan of the cartoony face, like the facial expressions and Darth Maul and stuff. I hated. I couldn't.
Okay,
stand.
so Rebels was the Vader design was the original design, so that was a nod to the original design of Vader. It was drawn to look more like a child's cartoon because that's what it was, because you never really saw anything. But what Rebels did, what was good, was it touched on the aspects of the Force that the Jedi don't really talk about. The Jedi's do have an inherent connection with animals, which was shown in Rebels. Rebels also gave us the fantastic
And Ahsoka in that.
the Ahsoka, and honestly, that I can't remember the kid's master's name, the one who ended up going blind. If the series would have been about him, I would have absolutely watched that series. That child character was just.
I did not like. Yeah, I didn't. There's like I said, there was droplets of really good stuff in Rebels.
It could have been amazing. They didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
There's moments where you were like, "Oh my god, this is a super interesting show for my age," and then there was fart jokes and stuff, and you're just like,
Yeah, looking in the big grand scheme of things, if you just watch a YouTube video that uses some of Rebels to fill in the gaps, you can appreciate Rebels. And looking back, out of all the good we have, if Rebels, besides Resistance can suck a dick.
Resistance isn't for us though.
I
Resistance
know.
is
It
for
pisses
kids.
me off though because it's an opportunity to fill in gaps and it just is shit.
No, it's actually. I think it's actually really
Sorry.
good.
I
because
watched literally 30 seconds of it though. So
I know,
that's why.
but like
I couldn't stand the animation. I'm sorry.
it got, my
Animation
little
is
cousin,
awful.
it got my little cousins into Star Wars.
Fair.
That's why I love it. It's
Fair.
because it's getting a younger generation.
Okay, fair. I just can't stand the animation style and expressions in Rebels, and in Rebels was kind of okay, but it was like you remember seeing Yoda or Anakin Skywalker in Rebels? They look
Why'd
like
they do
they look
Anakin like that? He looks so bad. His nose takes up
okay.
almost.
Yoda, the best way Yoda
Hmm?
looks.
You guys still got it.
Yes.
Yeah, we're almost done. We're almost done.
We're gonna wrap it up now.
No, we're finishing content. But Yoda in Rebels looks like you remember that blue fucking or sorry that purple fucking blob in McDonald's, that one character, that purple.
Grimace.
Yeah. Yoda looks like his shit, but green in Rebels.
Next comment.
When they got rid of the canon novels, I was choked. Again,
Absolutely.
if they had, I'm not too familiar with the novels, but if they had to
The canon novels are the stuff that included Thrawn, that included Luke Skywalker's children, Mara Skywalker. Dude.
So it's not like they were limiting.
Oh no! There
So
was so much that.
So
they
would you say that the
established.
novels are better than the sequel trilogy?
I haven't read the novel, so I can't say anything.
Well, if they are, then that's unfortunate, and moving on, we'll just have to accept the sequel trilogy and learn to love it or the good parts of it.
Yep.
But for the most part, I'm not going to... I used to be so negative towards Star Wars that it took away from my enjoyments.
That's the thing about Star Wars. I'm just going to quickly say this. Don't go into it with such a hard mindset. Don't going into it expecting what you fell in love with, because it's not going to be what you fell in love with. There's going to be aspects of it, absolutely. But Star Wars is always a continuing franchise that is continuously trying to grab new fans, and they're going to continue to grab new fans. They will throw in little tad bits that make you happy. Like, it is confirmed that the one Rebels trooper you see on the forest moon of Endor in Return of the Jedi with the big white beard was in fact Rex. Dave Filoni said, "Yep, fuck it."
That's so cool. I love that. Also, I'd like to give credit. I forgot to say this. There's Dave Filoni, but there's also a lot of good directors behind, just like more than just Dave Filoni. There's also Jon Favreau, who directed some of the Marvel movies.
Jon Favreau is Happy Hogan. He's one of the reasons he made the original Iron Man movie, the one that gave Robert Downey Jr. a second chance at life,
which is amazing because
and
Jon
literally
Favreau
created the Avengers universe. If it wasn't for Jon Favreau's Iron Man, you would not have.
But dude, you'd be surprised about like the early 2000s. Like, remember when Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson were making movies together? Like, the guy was wow or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of movies with there's a lot of movies with Jon Favreau where he was this raunchy, like kind of like fucked up kind of character, but was the best friend of like Vince Vaughn. You go back, he's like very muscular and stuff, and it's amazing to see that the Jon Favreau in Star Wars and Marvel, Marvel and Star Wars was the same actor back then. Anyways, moving on. I love when Lucas said the sequel trilogy wasn't canon, made my heart warm.
Okay. That's one thing that that's one thing that needs to be addressed right now. Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, straight up admitted that he regrets saying that because that's what it's doing.
No, George Lucas.
George Lucas. Okay, George Lucas created Star Wars, but he is not Star Wars. George Lucas is the reason.
The following. Same as Jon Favreau. It's a collective. It's not just one man.
George Lucas created. Was
the original trilogy
was what paid the work for everything, but honestly, you don't give George Lucas too much credit. I'm sorry.
Oh, he deserves a lot of credit, and he had great plans for the sequel trilogy that was ignored, so it's understandable for him to be upset because there's a lot of great plans with the sequel trilogy. Anyways, moving on from that because I want to wrap this up in 8 minutes. My little cousin says there's too many Star Wars movies. There's never enough. It's just if it's over. If there's too much in one universe or one character, it's annoying.
Well, the thing is Star Wars takes place in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. No, I'm not. I'm just saying that it's actually crazy what they could do with that. By them saying in a galaxy a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, they literally can do whatever they want because it is their own universe.
Yeah. Also, I'd just like to say I have 4 comments back to back saying I liked it. Great job, fellas. I I liked, I subbed. Like later on, this guy says he subbed.
Thank you.
Another one says, great job, Austin. Thank you guys, this means a lot. I know there's probably not a lot of people listening to the end, but if you are, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who shouted us out and helped us. Sorry we couldn't respond to these comments earlier. We were just in the discussion.
We got in the zone.
Yeah. I'm just gonna find. Can't wait to see some clone troopers in action, man. You gotta go watch the Clone Wars. That's where it's at. I can always
2003 Gennady Tarkovsky series. You want to fall in love with Clone Troopers? Watch it.
Yeah.
You'll thank me.
Anakin will always be my favorite Star Wars character. Completely understandable, justifiable.
Yep.
He also made some of the dark side of the Force. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Our Trooper armor looks the best. I'd say Commando Trooper.
ARC Troopers, the reason ARC Troopers were so good was because they were given more of Jango Fett's personality, hence why a lot of Jedis did not like the ARC Troopers, because the ARC Troopers weren't exactly always listening and did things on their own. There's a whole bunch. Okay, in the next episode, when it's about Clone Troopers, get ready to hear me ramble, because I know so much about the clones. So much.
Yeah. Joel Sopp, which is a family friend. He's a big Star Wars guy. Same with Trevor. They're actually commenting a lot of good things I wish we saw, but we just didn't have the opportunity to. So Joel says the marketing of Star Wars has been on point from a retail point of view, but it's been
Absolutely
a little over. Yep, there's that. I don't think we need to say anything on that. And then Joel also says, I'll just read his final two comments. Arden says, "Step on my face, Dad." But when
Arden, no time to be horny, only time for Star Wars.
Yeah, it's Star Wars time, babe. Come on, you know better. Then Joel Sopp says, when J.J. Abrams stole the canon material from post Return of the Jedi novels to hack and slash 8, 7, and 9, my heart legit broke.
Yes.
But J.J. Abrams does deserve
J.J.
some
Abrams?
credits from picking up Ryan Johnson's mess. I will give some credit to J.J. Abrams. He did give a pretty decent. It could have been better.
Yeah,
but
none
he
of
gave
the,
a pretty
none of the
good,
movies were perfect. That's the
yeah.
thing. None of the movies were perfect, and that's why Star Wars is so beloved. Is because nothing in it has ever been perfect. It has always been up to interpretation.
Yeah. Artist says we can make Star Wars in sexy time.
Arden, no!
Yes, I like that.
Keep this to
But I just like to
Snapchat
say-
conversations.
After Logan and I both watched episode 9 on separate occurrences, I remember I was in my dorm room and I called him and we talked about, you know what? I'm satisfied with episode 9. And we had like a 2-hour conversation, which could be a whole other Star Wars podcast.
We could honestly
talking
just
about
do a whole.
the
We could just
respect-
do our own series
Yeah.
of Star Wars.
We had a lot of respect on J.J. Abrams picking up Ryan Johnson's mess in episode 8, and we could get into a lot of examples of that and say, you know what? Benefit of the doubt to J.J. Abrams. He ain't perfect. He had the heart there, and he was automatically limited to making episode 9 because of Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson had some great ideas, just poor execution.
Yeah. And on top of that, J.J. Abrams gave a pretty good start to The Force Awakens. I feel like he could have done a lot more with it, but it was pretty enjoyable, and I remember feeling satisfied when I first watched it.
I still love The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
But on that positive note, I would say we covered everything for today. I'm a little tired from talking a bit, and I kind of want to go vibe with my friends. I think Kaylee's waiting for us to finish up too. So shout out to Kaylee for being super patient and all
We
that.
could have totally had Kaylee talk about TikTok.
We should have her as a guest sometime. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to try to post these a little more frequent. School's starting, so I might have more time or I might have less time. I'm not sure. Thank you guys. I'd say this is our best podcast so far. My favorite setup so far. Most support and viewers. So thank you guys. Papa bless. Most interactive engagement in the comments. Thank you guys. Super motivating. I love the outcome of this live stream. So you guys have a wonderful day. It's been AJ Zealous and Shithead, aka Logan. I'm just kidding. His name is Logan. Shout out to Mr. Logan for doing a great job in this podcast too. Thanks, honestly, man. You did amazing in this podcast. I love doing it with you. I'd love to do more Star Wars with you. We could have a separate kind of sub-series for Star Wars in the Zealous
Honestly,
podcast.
I would totally be down.
Yeah. Because we got a lot more ideas, we could write down, be a little more organized. And like I said, guys, I want to maybe invest more money in this in the future if the support keeps coming and I keep getting good ideas and stuff. But without further ado, it's been AJ Zealous, and I will see you guys next time.